I think some serious consideration needs to be given to the standard of proof that has to be met before federal involvement is appropriate, and that's something that I'm going to be talking about before I leave office. I think that if we adjust those standards, we can make the federal government a better backstop, make us more a part of the process in an appropriate way to reassure the American people that decisions are made by people who are really disinterested. And I think that if we make those adjustments, we will have that capacity.
All right, some of the most frightening words I have heard in a long time. Welcome to the Malzberg panel, folks. Joining us, trial attorney and columnist at HNGN.com, Heather Hansen, and host of the Roger Hedgecock syndicated radio show, The Roger Hedgecock Show, Roger Hedgecock. All right, let me start with you, Heather. For what he's talking about there was the bar to bring civil rights violations. He couldn't do it against George Zimmerman, and probably won't be able to do it here against the police officer in Ferguson. So the interviewer asked him about that. And he says we got to lower the standards to be able to bring these civil rights charges. You're an attorney. What the heck is he talking about?
It's ridiculous. He can't get the results he wants, so he wants to change the rules. And the problem here is we're not just talking about one type of case. The case against Zimmerman is because George Zimmerman was not a policeman, so it's a hate crimes case with one standard. And then the case against the officer in the Michael Brown case is a different type of civil rights case. So he now wants to change the law on a whole host of cases to get the results that he wants, instead of going to the root of the problem and dealing with the relationship between the civilians and the police officers.
Well, you know, Roger, and then at the end he said we have to prove to the public that disinterested parties will be trying to get these charges. Disinterested?
Well, Steve, listen, I thought that opened the door to the obvious next step by this administration, and that would be an executive action by the Obama administration to unilaterally change the civil rights hate crime legislation, because after all, he's changed all this other legislation. Why doesn't he just go ahead? What does he need Congress for? They should just be going ahead with another executive order if they're going to keep to their pattern.
All right, Heather, I was going to ask you, what is the path if he wants to lower the bar? Is it only through Congress?
It would have to, I mean, arguably, although Roger's right, I mean, with this administration, there's a lot of things that you would think would have to go through legislation that seem to be coming in different ways. But it would have to be a judicial or a congressional act to actually do that. And that's just not going to happen. I mean, the truth is what we have works. There's a reason that the standards are higher, because they've already gone through the state process and failed, and it's going to stay the way that it is.
Well, I could see Obama, Roger, doing it and saying, if you don't like it, sue me. That's what he's done before.
Well, that's exactly right. And of course, I'm sure they're hunting out any remaining U.S. district judges that would dare to stand up to this nascent dictatorship that's emerging here in the last 2 years of this administration. But it's frightening in every respect, and this is just one more.
Yeah, all right. I want you to hear, let's shift our attention to Scott Walker over at the CPAC festivities. And he said something yesterday, got him in a little trouble, although it's just the media. It just shows what a threat he is, I believe. Here's what he said. Well, he's there. Okay, well, basically he said we need somebody to fight ISIS and be proactive and take them on. And, you know, I took on 100,000 protesters in Wisconsin so I could do it. Of course, he wasn't drawing an analogy, Heather, between terrorists and the protesters in the State House in Wisconsin. But nonetheless, the left-wing media are so afraid of him that anything he says, they're going to try to twist and turn.
Yeah, Steve, I agree with you, but I do think that on foreign policy, he's got an uphill climb. You know, the good news about this is since October, the Republicans have risen, I think, 13 points in the Pew studies on foreign policy. In October, they were equal with the Democrats. They have increased in that number. But certain candidates are certainly stronger than others when it comes to that. And I think that that's one of the things that Governor Walker's going to have to overcome, is an understanding that he's just not as strong as some of the other candidates.
And Roger, one way, well, first of all, if he's a nominee against Hillary, my God, I mean, we just had emails, which we'll talk about in a second, coming out showing that, proving that Hillary's aides all knew and all emailed back and forth at the time of the Benghazi attack that it was, in fact, a terrorist attack. So if it's going to be Walker against Hillary, he picks a gravitas-full, if you will, vice president and promises to put the best people in place, and he should be able to win on foreign policy, right?
Well, he should, and I'll tell you why. Because he's a fan of Ronald Reagan, and back in the day, in 1980, Reagan said, look, in 1984, I should be reelected because, look, I stood up to the Soviets because they knew I would stand up to them, because I stood up to the Air Traffic Controllers Union. So when you have that kind of situation, Walker, in fact, is right on the mark.
All right, we're coming back. More on Hillary and other things. Don't go away. All right, ladies and gentlemen, back with the panel, Heather Hansen and Roger Hedgecock. And let's talk about this DHS funding nonsense, Roger. And, to me, I can't take it anymore. I heard Gloria Borger, this is CNN. Gloria Borger just joining the chorus of all the CNN people, but she said, I want to pull my hair out. Over what the Republicans are doing. I want to pull the hair out of my head. I mean, that's reporting down the middle, isn't it? But I got to tell you, I want to pull my hair out or bang my head against the wall because this is nonsense. Just do what McConnell did, Boehner, wave the white flag, because 3 weeks or whatever it's going to be, what are you going to do in 3 weeks? Then you're going to take a stand? Last year, you gave him what he wanted and said, oh, wait till next year. And now it's next year, and you're saying, oh, 3 weeks, and then we'll get tough. Well, he's a joke, Roger.
You're pulling your hair out, and so are a lot of people in conservative circles today, because there's an obvious way to handle this, and Mitch McConnell has got to grow a pair here. He's got to drop the nuclear option on Harry Reid and the Democrats, just like Harry Reid did last year to the minority Republicans. He's got to take appropriations bills out of the filibuster, make them a democracy, majority vote only, and then we solve the problem. We pass the DHS bill with the defunding of the illegal amnesty, send it to the president, let him shut down Department of Homeland Security and take the political guff.
Heather?
That worries me a little bit. I do think the 3 weeks, I agree with you, Steve. I think that it's just punting it down the lane. But there is the issue that perhaps the courts in that time will deny the administration's request for a stay, and the injunction will keep, and then we'll have the judicial branch taking care of the problem.
However, how will they take care of the problem? Then they'll just appeal it further, and they'll keep going on until eventually it gets to the Supreme Court. The Republicans have a leg to stand on that they didn't before that judicial decision. They could tell the public, not that they know how to tell the public anything, they could tell the public, it's not only us and you in the polls that say, we don't like this executive order nonsense, but a judge said it's illegal and we will not fund it. But they won't do that.
Well, and I think the filibuster worries me, because you can always be on the other side of that. The thing that worries me about defunding DHS is the fact that a lot of our cyber terrorist attack defense people would be out of jobs and wouldn't be working. And right now we know that is one of the major concerns. We have major concerns with cyber terrorism with regard to Iran, with regard to China. Having those people not working is a major concern.
Roger, first of all, I don't know if they would be working or
they
just not getting paid. Yeah, and
that part wouldn't be.
And if they're not, then Obama shouldn't veto it if it's that important. He would be the one vetoing it if Roger's scenario comes through, right, Roger?
Yep, that's exactly right. And I think that the budget process, which is already not, the making of the original budget is not a filibuster item. Make the appropriations, which follows up on the budget, and which the debate we're having today, make that a non-filibuster item, because it shouldn't be. It should be a majority vote once you get to that issue of appropriating money for what you've already decided to do.
All right, let's move on to Lois Lerner and the IRS. They found, 30,000 emails, 32,000 emails that they didn't know existed after the IRS commissioner testified before Congress, presumably under oath, that he asked the IT people and they said, oh, can't find them. The IT people are now saying they never asked us. I mean, Heather, what the heck? I keep saying every show, I say, what the heck? Because you do want to bang your head against the wall.
Yeah, it's frustrating. And, the White House has
punted. It's criminal.
And it may well be. And that's another part of the problem, where the person that they've appointed to investigate this is someone who has made huge donations to the Obama administration. So we need a special prosecutor to be in place, no doubt about it. We have all these issues where the White House is saying the IRS will give you those emails. The IRS is saying we can't give them to you. The White House will. We need access to this information.
And Roger, maybe they should lower the standards for putting people in jail for perjury.
That's right. I'm waiting for an executive action that would reduce perjury in this case, as long as it's on the Democrats' favor and as long as the money flows to Democrat candidates.
Yeah, and you know what? Nothing is beyond the realm of possibility. You
can't parody
I'm glad
these people
Lois
anymore.
Lerner got her. I'm glad Lois Lerner got her $320,000 in bonus money, though. That's only fair to her. All right, folks. Have a great weekend. Heather Hansen and Roger Hedgecock. It is insane, folks, but the insanity continues, and we continue to cover it right here. Give Me 5 is next, only on Newsmax Television on the Steve Malzberg Show. Don't go away.